Hey, welcome to Get the Balance Right, a podcast for creative entrepreneurs and agency owners looking to grow their business in a healthy, sustainable way. I'm Heather Zeitzwolf, CPA. I serve this community with coaching, profit advising, and virtual CFO services. Please join me as I talk with leaders in digital media, branding, advertising, design, marketing, and SEO. Hey listeners, this is Heather. I'm so glad that you're here joining me today. Maybe this is the first time you've heard this podcast, or maybe you actually listened to some of the other podcasts. Well, welcome. On today's show, my guest is Ben Herman. Ben is somebody that I've known since, I was thinking it was the late 90s, but actually it probably was the early 2000s. That time sort of blends for me. We were both working at the market research company called Research Data Design, also known as RDD. That's where I got to know Ben. It was a market research company that was a data collections company. And we had this awesome boss, John Steepleton. Maybe he's out there. Shout out to John Steepleton, who was a real innovator and really taught both of us how to be entrepreneurs, to think outside of the box and also be on the edge of technology. I really enjoyed this conversation because when I knew Ben, it was so long ago, and he was a real go-getter. I was always really impressed with Ben, and now he has built this SEO empire called Madfish Digital. I'm so proud of him. It's just amazing. And this was such a delight to talk to him and learn about his struggles and also his wins. And I really think that you're going to enjoy this conversation. All right, here it is. Hey, Ben, thanks for coming on to my podcast. It's so great to see you.
Thanks, Heather. It's great to see you too.
We go back, I think probably we met in the 90s because we worked for the same company. And I remember that you were talking about this whole SEO thing back then, and I had no idea what you were talking about. But maybe we can kind of go back to the early years. And I was wondering where the name Madfish came from and behind that.
Yeah. So originally, if I go way, way back to when I was a teenager, I had this hat, and it had a mad fish on it, an angry fish. And I looked at it and I thought that would be a really cool company name. And if I ever have a company, I'm going to call it Madfish. And then you fast forward maybe 5 to 7 years. I had been doing some work with websites, more on the side for personal sites, doing some affiliate marketing, things like that. And some friends approached me to do some work for them and their clients. They had a web development firm. And so they knew what I was kind of doing on the side. And I went and when I started talking to them about getting paid and all of that, they said, well, it's going to be far easier if you're an LLC. So here's some paperwork, go fill it out. And I filled out the LLC paperwork and they asked for a company name. And I was racking my brain and I was like, oh, we got Madfish. Like we can help our clients like navigate the waters, and kind of had some story behind it. And so I was like, yes, Madfish, that needs to be the name.
What got you started in this whole SEO thing? Okay, so you had this website business, and then how did you kind of establish yourself as an SEO company?
Originally, so I started to look at where I felt the marketing industry was going. We worked at the same place. We were both in market research. So we got introduced to, that was one of my first introductions to what I would consider the corporate world. It was an amazing experience. I learned a lot about market research. And I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I was trying to find something that would be new, something that was maybe emerging, and that I was way into. I liked market research. I felt like I knew it really well and knew the industry, and I enjoyed what I did. It was a really tough field to leave. So I looked and I started to see, I'd heard about like people buying and selling domains and different things. And you heard about like .com bubble and all that kind of stuff. And so I kind of thought, well, if I could teach myself how to maybe build some of these sites, I could teach myself how to market them too. And so I started trying different tactics on websites to get them to rank higher. And I would sell like ad space on some of these sites. So one of my first websites was like automotivewiringdiagrams.com and createawedding.com. And so I started just kind of dabbling in it. It felt like throwing a net out into the world. with these domains. And so, I started looking at how to get them to rank. And some sites I would get to rank and then they would go away and other ones would stick around. And so I started making notes on what was working and what wasn't. As time went on, I was able to kind of build that into a business because I had a service set that I could offer to clients to help their websites rank higher. That's kind of how I got into SEO.
SEO seems like one of these like weird nebulous things. So you started this company. It's about SEO. You've got this, you're dabbling around, you're doing your own market research. So from in the early years, like what was your struggles kind of getting this thing off the ground?
Well, so like when I left research data design, I quit with the intention to go back to school because I had actually started to work for research data design while I was still going through college. I was there for 4 or 5 years. And so amazing experience. But I kind of put college on hold and I was young enough and I thought, well, I enjoy this place. It's great. I need to try and finish my degree. And I also have these, I had a couple of web clients on the side. So I thought, through my friends that had started a web development company and also moved to Portland at the same time. And so I thought, well, one of a couple of things might happen here. I'll finish my degree and I'll be able to restart my career and maybe ask for more money or a higher salary because I'll have more education behind me, or the business will grow. And so I figured one of those two things would happen. Left my job, started the business. It was a little bit running already and focused on school and that. I think the early struggles were, it's nerve-wracking because your income goes from when you have a career and then you quit and you go back to school, it can be expensive. Yeah, my income went down considerably, but I was able to get enough of the business going to where it could pay my rent. That started to feel okay. The early struggles you would think would be more financial, but I was really happy. And even though I was making far less money, I was just really happy. My day was filled with non-stressful things. So it was like, I had a couple of clients, I had to do good work. I could finish that partway through the day. And then my biggest concern was like, where am I going to eat lunch for the day? And I was down at some point to like my last $5, but I was the happiest I had been in a long time. But the struggles that started to emerge were, how do you scale the business? Because I knew that I couldn't keep doing the work and I wanted to grow it. And I thought, okay, there's something here. There's interest. We're able to find new clients. The industry is growing. It's evolving. SEO is becoming a bigger thing. Digital marketing all the way around was just starting to come into its own. I think there's so many struggles about running a business that you don't think of when you start a business. And what I mean by that is like, I was good at my craft. I was good at getting websites to rank. And at research data design, I would manage people. And I oversaw with a team, our team, right? We were all there together and we managed the call centers and work with probably 200 to 400 people in a given day. I had this high confidence that, I can manage people. I can do this, but hiring the right fit, navigating the accounting, they say a business is built on 4 pillars, which is people, cash, strategy, and execution. Yeah, I wasn't that great at any of those 4 areas. And so I had to do a lot of work of learning and educating myself on those components, which were all super important for building a business. And being good at my craft was the best place to start. It took a lot more than that. And those were all challenging because I think there was a lot of there was multiple moments where, you have to really look internally and say like, do I want to be doing this? And obviously the answer was yes. I chose yes. There's self-confidence, all that education that goes into kind of making things continue to grow that you didn't sign up for and had nothing to do with the SEO or digital marketing industry at all. It's kind of like business 101. And that was an area I had to do some learning in.
Hey there, this is Heather. Besides being a podcast host, I'm also a CPA and profit advisor. I help creative agencies grow in a sustainable manner. Right now, I'm offering a complimentary healthcare check of your business. So if you go down to the show notes, you'll see a link and you can sign up. All right, now back to the show. When you were scaling your business in the beginning, it sounds like you're probably wearing all the hats. When did you start to actually take on some actual contractors and then maybe put people onto payroll?
My wife, Corey, we had been dating probably in around 2004, 2005, right around the time she kind of gave me some of the confidence to quit my job and try something new. And because it never came from a place of like, I'm out of here. It was more of like I need to continue to evolve myself. Yeah, she helped give me some of that confidence. And one of the pieces was that she had a career in marketing as well. And so she was familiar with tech marketing and technology, was a big part of the company's success, even from that stage, because she saw what I was doing and she had convinced me to quit my job. Maybe originally it was a big factor there. After about a year and things were starting to work out, she was still working at her job. And she came home and we were talking and I was like, I think you should maybe take a break from what you're doing. Because the business is doing well enough. We're not going to be rich. We're going to have to return the cars we have on lease. But the leases were just about up. It's like we won't be able to purchase them, but I'm really happy. I really appreciate what you helped me to have the confidence to do. I think it's only right that I reciprocate that. Like we should, she wanted to write a book and some other things. So she said, okay, and so she actually left her job. And then, of course, neither of us could really sit still, which is probably why we're such a good fit. And yeah, at some point, probably maybe 6 months to 8 months, 9 months after she had left her job, she was watching what I was doing. She was like, there's some other areas here. She helped me kind of tighten up some of the other areas of the business. And she recognized some stuff that maybe weren't my strengths in the business. She's like, you're really good at like getting the job done, fulfilling, the clients all have great results. Here's some areas I think we could step it up. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And so we kind of both started it from the beginning. The reason that's important is because it made a big difference that we were working on it together from that stage. We kind of freelanced and I could, bring in some work and the two of us could fulfill it. And between her contacts and my contacts, we were both able to kind of keep things moving and grow the business. And then it got to a point where it was like, we kind of had to decide, do we want to rent an office and hire a team to kind of help us with this? And again, we were young enough and we were kind of like, well, let's do that. And if it doesn't work, we can still go back to freelancing. And, we kind of took the full plunge. I think she left her job in 2007. I had left research data design in 2006. And then by 2009, December 2008, we decided that we wanted to hire people. We kind of made that decision. Yeah, I don't know. That's a long way to answer your question. But yeah, there was never, I would say, an easy decision. Everything was always really nerve-wracking. I was like, oh man, this is like, if we make the wrong move, this is going to explode. But yeah, we're able to kind of navigate those waters. And that was right around the time, I know you've asked me in the questions before around like EO and things like that, but that was right around the time that I learned about EO was the summer of 2009.
Let's explore that. So what is EO and how did you get involved with that?
Yeah, so EO is it's short for Entrepreneurs Organization, and it's a global organization of businesses. It's founded with the principles of Gestalt learning and experience sharing. The goal is that, it's a business network essentially on one level, but there's this personal element of personal growth and kind of education through experience shares from others. So nobody gets up there and says, you need to go do this. I went to a lot of different business groups. You're looking for a lot of knowledge when you're at all times in life. Especially when you're starting your business, as you know, and you're kind of like, you're seeking all this information because you're like, I know I'm doing some things right and other things feel really, there's a lot of friction there. EO is a great kind of learning network there's education behind it. It's structured, again, all through experience sharing. So you can really get a glimpse into, from really genuine, honest folks who have kind of been there before you and learn what they're doing and help you navigate waters and avoid pitfalls that maybe you would have encountered. And so it's a great organization for entrepreneurs that are between the $250,000 to $1 million mark annually in top line revenue, or $1 million and over.
Do you have to prove that to them first and show them financials, or is there a process of getting in? Do they agree on letting you in or not, or how does that work?
Yeah, there's a bit of a process. There is like revenue verification and things like that. When I started, they were just bringing a program to Portland that was called Entrepreneurs Organization Accelerator. So EOA is what the acronym would be. That was 2009. That's for folks that are between $250,000 and $1 million in revenue that are looking to learn a lot more about business in general. I mean, it was hugely helpful and pivotal for me personally in our business, both from a personal growth perspective, but a business growth perspective as well. And so going through that program helped to push me into the next chapter, which is the EO proper organization, which is It's all the same organization, but the $1 million and over businesses, it's a slightly different program.
So would you recommend to entrepreneurs, if they're not quite at that income level, to maybe pursue like a mastermind or some other kind of coaching, or what would be comparable to that, do you think?
Glad you brought that up, because that's what it's centered around. Is there's mastermind groups. They call them, they have different words. It's forum or accountability groups. I would highly recommend it. Yeah, because depending on where we want to go and what our goals are as entrepreneurs, we don't have all the answers. Yeah, I think being open to learning is crucial. And it's tough, I feel like, especially when you're starting out, because there's a lot of organizations that seem like they would be good. They invite you in. I went to a lot of different places and they just weren't a fit for me personally. Go to a group and it was all about how many business cards could you pass out or different things. And that was never how it didn't really click with me, because it felt like that's not how I would get business. A lot of our business came from like relationship building and different things like that. But you're really struggling at that. I was really struggling at that juncture to find answers to some of the problems that I had. And people would say that they potentially had answers, things that had maybe worked for them. I don't know, it's hard to phrase it, but joining EO kind of opened my eyes to like, hey, there's this other way of learning, which is through experience sharing. Here's a lot of folks that will genuinely take the time to kind of teach and help you grow, not for anything in return for them personally. And that really resonated with me, because that was how I felt and wanted to be as a business owner, which was, I think a lot of us, we give a lot and we don't necessarily do it because we want something in return, but to know that it'll be paid forward, or have that kind of like unspoken feeling. I think that felt really genuine to me. And so that was kind of my initial feelings. And I was like, wow, I want to be a part of this. I hope that I could grow my business to a point where I could help others.
I found that it's always best to be in a room full of people that are far smarter than I am. And that way you learn something rather than being the smart guy in the room.
Totally. Yeah, you're absolutely, yeah, I totally agree.
Hey there, this is Heather. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. And if you are, if you wouldn't mind, please hit the subscribe button now. That way you'll never miss an episode. All right, now back to the podcast. You're in SEO. Google is the king of all things, right?
Yeah.
Is it just me, or does Google seem like it's like kind of diabolical in like the way that it works with algorithms and all of that? I mean, how does like a little guy get ranked? They can't afford to go through maybe Madfish, or can they do SEO on their own? Is that even a thing?
Yeah, it's tough. It's definitely far more. I mean, in 2008, 2009, it was not nearly as competitive for a lot of the different keywords as it is now. And the algorithms are probably more complex in a lot of ways. Not probably, they are. Back when we started, it was maybe easier for me personally to understand, coming from the computer science background. I made sure to read up on any information that was out there. There was white papers, there was patents they had filed, and I could make sense of some of the math. I was like, wow, they taught this to us in different classes, in different CS classes. This is cool. This is graph theory. This is, as the algorithms have evolved, there's a lot of mechanisms that I feel like Google has put in place that help mom and pop type of businesses compete with some of the larger brands. But at the same time, there's a whole lot more competition, as you know, for a lot of keywords. Some things are difficult, some things are not. I do feel that there's still a lot of opportunity out there for capturing search traffic, but I think that the mentality needs to be less about how do I get this traffic, and more about what resources can I put out to an industry, or what can I share? Because really, when people are using Google, the majority of searches are people looking for something. They're looking for resources or information. They're not looking to make a purchase. There's so many people that use Google, and while it's a smaller percentage of the overall daily searches for people looking to buy something, that there's enough sales to go around, and everybody's like, oh, if I rank for this term, I'll make money. I think the mentality has to be more about what can I add to the conversation. Years ago, the metaphor I used was like a grocery store. And if search engines were the grocery store, they index essentially what's on the shelves. But it's this grocery store that allowed anybody to put any of their products anywhere they wanted. And so companies like us would help people kind of organize and properly segment those offerings so that it made sense, so that when the user was walking down the aisle, they could easily find what they're looking for. It made sense. It wasn't irrelevant. Just work within the parameters of Google. And I think that that's really the mentality people still need to go in with today. It's how can I help Google organize this data better. There's so many different ways that Google can process data now that they couldn't before. And it really allows for a super customized experience for people, which, as we know, with algorithms and stuff and all the discussion around them these days, it has its pros and cons for sure. The notion that what can I add to the conversation in any industry, I think you can get rewarded for that easily. And it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, but staying with it can be highly rewarding from a rankings perspective. But more importantly, I mean, the marketing thought behind all of it it's been the same since the beginning of time, which is different touch points to a target consumer, a positive experience with your brand. So maybe they find you on one website, another website, then they Google search you, then they're added to your email and they see, so there's like 7, 12, 200 touch points in some cases. Yeah, search engines are a factor in that. They play into it. But yeah, again, what can you add to that conversation and how can you kind of be a stepping stone in that person's journey?
That's kind of like a giving mentality. So do you think that that's why people tend to do like podcasts or blogs or give away PDFs for lead magnets and all of that, because that's part of that giving mentality?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's the giving mentality and there's also like educating a consumer who's looking for information on your product or service. So if you've got let's say a longer sales cycle, it's important that you kind of stay in front of people, given that you can't just like send them the same message every week or every month. You got to have some type of offering that also educates them on the difference of your company versus another, or your service offering, your culture, or what makes you better or unique. What's your unique selling proposition? These, common business pieces, again, have been around since the beginning of business and are super important. And search engines just kind of play into all that.
Okay, I have to ask you about the whole B Corp thing, because that is, I can tell it's really important to you. It's an important thing to me when I see a company has its conscious capitalism, I suppose they call it. And so how did you get involved in being a B Corp, and how do you go about changing your company so that you can actually qualify for being a B Corp?
Yeah, I mean, it's really a team effort. It's something that we as a company agreed that was important to all of us and that we wanted to do. I learned about it through folks that were in EO that had gone through the certification. They were telling me about it, and I thought, this is really cool. This is, there's a lot of things we do as business owners and entrepreneurs where I had this mentality, I think, early on of like, I wanted to create a work environment and a business that help people in more than just like the standard. We'll give them, a paycheck for trading time for hours, right? Benefits come with that. And then also there's this other piece of like creative benefits, like not just like thinking outside of the box to create the place that you really truly would want to work. That's where it kind of started. And so we had these different kind of benefits and things that we had put together as a company. When I learned about B corporations, I learned that there is a certification program that would kind of benchmark you, and you could put metrics and really keep yourself accountable to those items. Like we kind of had all these pieces out there. And then when we took like the certification, there's like a pre-test for the B Corp certification. We found that we did not, we had a lot of work to do in a lot of areas. And so we were thinking about some areas around people, but there was other ways down to like how we recycle or compost. I really like seeing some of the, I like learning about, trying to think of a good way to put it, some of the benchmarks that B Corp certification would apply to a service business versus a manufacturing business, right? They took into account that we're all a little bit different in our industries. And so our ability to have an environmental impact is less and more depending on the type of business we have. Same with people in our workforce. And so all of that played together, and really the mission, what the B Corp certification means to me is like putting people above profits, right? And I think that gets overlooked a lot in business. And we were in a position with our business and our industry where we could maybe jump into that. And it probably also had to do with the size of our business at the time. And so it just seemed like a no-brainer to really kind of jump in all the way. And like I said, it takes a team. We have a couple folks on our team that I would consider champions of the B Corp movement, if you will. We all kind of help keep ourselves accountable. And it's a continued work in progress. You have to get recertified every 2 years. It's a journey for sure. But yeah, it seemed like it was kind of just felt like a no-brainer in a lot of ways. And like I said, we took the test the first time, didn't pass. There's some challenges there. It's not easy. And that appealed to us too.
There might be companies that just want to do that just for, just to slap that label on their website, but you really have all of the values behind it. And so is the auditing Do they audit, like, or is it self-audited, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the first few steps are maybe more self-auditing, and I believe there's been some updates to how they score and what they look at to the certification in the last year. To get the ball rolling, it's self work. You kind of take some pre-tests, and then you have to take enough tests. You have to take another test and score high enough based on all different facets of your business. Like I said, people, environmental. Are you using low flush toilets? You get for different signage and things like that are non-binary around bathrooms. There's a point there. The way that you conduct business all plays into it. And so for those items, you are allowed to score yourself, but then there's an auditor who comes in and actually confirms everything. So it's legit. The other cool thing is I felt like the B Corp community was hugely supportive of us on our journey, because certification probably took us from start to finish a full year of work and learning where we needed to improve, enacting those improvements, and then kind of going back through and retesting ourselves. So there's definitely some work. It's not easy, but I did feel that the community was super supportive of our work in that direction.
But I want to know, what do you see as the future for SEO?
I mean, digital marketing as a whole continues to evolve, right? So at Madfish, we do, our services fall into 4 areas, which is paid media, SEO, content, and design. And then we have an analytics team, and email kind of wraps around all of that. Yeah, the future of SEO specifically, I do feel that there's people still, like, for search engines to continue to be trusted, they have to have that, what we call the organic search component. If people don't trust them, they're not going to trust the ads. So they have to trust the results, because ads are where the search engines do make a fair amount of money, and it's their big revenue driver. But those organic results need to be genuine and helpful. As Google continues to kind of evolve their search results, as devices that we have evolve, search evolves with it. So you think mobile devices, things like that, there's certain information we want to have on our phones now from search engines. And there'll be information and things that we want and have available to the devices 5 years from now that we can't even fathom. I think search engines will continue to evolve. As that happens, I do see SEO. It's still a piece. I remember hearing in like 2004, like 2005, people were saying, well, SEO is going to be dead next year. And I haven't seen that. I don't see that. We still talk to companies every day. People call us with issues. They launched a new website and the rankings dropped, or they've encountered some pitfall or some issue, and they're trying to troubleshoot it, and they need an expert to come in and kind of lay out the groundwork to help the dev team. We still see those issues all the time. And I think as long as you have search engines and as long as you have websites, you're going to have the need for SEO to kind of connect the two and help people navigate those waters.
And for a company that wanted to work with you, is there a certain revenue that they have to work with your folks?
Yeah, I mean, we work with a lot of different brands, all size clients. Typically the businesses we work with are, they range, right? I'd say like 10 million to 50 million in annual revenue on up to, billions. I will talk and help out anybody. So if our strategies are going to be too expensive for somebody, I'll still, help somebody out and connect them with another partner or digital marketing agency or freelancer contractor. So yeah, if somebody needs help, I'm always happy to, we have a sales team. And so if somebody reaches out, we'll jump on a call. We'll be upfront with them. We'll kind of talk things through, because yeah, as our company has grown, the services grow and we do some really cool stuff, but it can be, the cost can range, and it's not always affordable for maybe a startup business or a smaller business. It's just getting off the ground, and really every nickel counts. And we've been in that situation. Like, I get it. I think when we started out in 2006, 2007, I was charging probably anywhere from $100 to $300 a month, but that was because the services, I could get the work done, in under a few hours that a client would need to rank high. There's far more work that goes into it these days as the algorithms have evolved. So the cost has gone up with that. And our team, I mean, we've got some serious experts on the team. It's a really good group and we're really proud of it. And sometimes it does cost a premium, but we can back it up.
And I noticed that you have a webinar that's coming up tomorrow, but that'll be after this episode airs. Do you often put on webinars?
We do webinars. We have a series of them. So we're about to announce another set of 4 SEO related ones. We'll also have some other areas of the business. There's some paid media, content and design focused ones as well.
And who are those geared towards? Are they for business owners?
Yeah, I would say they're geared for everybody.
Being that we know each other through market research, do you feel that the background that you had in market research with data helped you in SEO?
You know, I feel like it primed me really well. You know, as you know, we worked an office environment that was really cool for the CEO, CFO. They did a really good job, I felt like, of bringing in new knowledge and entrepreneurial information that they were learning to the rest of the business. We all learned a lot from that. And then coupled with kind of the zeros and ones behind market research, I think it helped me. And I could talk for a while about that whole thing. It's interesting because there's some knowledge which I'm really happy I don't have to deal with anymore, of like dealing with quotas and sample size and all those types of things when it comes to like political surveys. But I loved, part of me still loves it. But when I look back, like think of the evolution that's occurred since 2003 in that whole space, and just online with everything. It was like the data that we would collect would, I think it was 80 gigs, and there was like these refrigerator sized servers in an entire room. There's like 8 of them between like a 4-year period that fits on an iPod, that was just rolling out. And you're like, wow. And people don't answer the telephone like they used to. You can't just call the landline. Those types of things I feel like were really cool to be a part of because I got to see the evolution of where it is today. And I think that really helped. But definitely understanding, getting that experience around the zeros and ones and what data meant and what it was and how a survey instrument works and all of that, I think was hugely helpful for me to on like the analytics side of the business that we conduct.
Well, thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Heather. I really appreciate you having me on.
Hey, this is Heather. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. If you found value in the show, I'd really appreciate it if you gave me a rating on iTunes, or just simply tell a friend about it. And if you're interested in learning more about my profit advising and coaching, please set up a discovery call by using the link in the show notes. All right, thanks so much and see you next time.